This car pulls up beside me. There were two men in it. One of them got down. It was a big, burly guy, and he asked me to get into the car. There were people around, but no one moved to do anything. Both of them had guns, and the big guy cocked his gun. And so I got him.
The driver turned the car the other way. And I remember asking her, what's happening? Why are you driving in the opposite direction? But he said something along the lines of, he just wanted to buy fuel.
Take off your clothes! I just want to go! Take off your clothes now! Please stop!
When I was begging and I wasn't taking off my clothes as he asked, he slapped me. I mean, he kept slapping me. And then he just started taking off my clothes himself.
I'm sitting in this car and they're contemplating on how they would kill me, where they would drop my body once they were done. They contemplated if they should throw my body into the Bar Beach water or leave it by the shore, just by the side of the road. March 29, 2014, I was somewhere in VI. I was on my way to buy credits. We were celebrating my sister's birthday, myself and my siblings and some of her friends. And I remember that I had to get credit. And it was those days when there wasn't any USSD, there wasn't any online banking. You had to buy it from a vendor. So I walked down the street somewhere in VI, in Lagos, to get credit. And as I walked down the road, this car pulls up beside me. It wasn't dark. The sky was still fairly bright, late evening. And this car pulls up beside me. There were two men in it. One of them got down. It was a big, burly guy, dark-skinned, he was wearing glasses. And he asked me to get into the car. I looked in the car and there was an elderly man, like a baba, slim, wearing a jalabia. And there were people around, but no one moved to do anything. Both of them had guns, and the big guy cocked his gun. And so I got him.
September 28th, I woke up late. I was going to work. And it was one of those days that I did not want to go to work. So I wasn't even dressed nicely, to be honest. I remember my mom insulting me that if I continued like this, I would die single. But I left the house anyway. I went to the office and I got to my bus stop. I got into a car. The guy was driving. There was a guy in front, at the passenger seat, and the driver turned the car the other way, like going back to my house. And I remember asking her, what's happening? Why are you driving in the opposite direction? But he said something along the lines of, he just wanted to buy fuel. It was really late. Again, I didn't want to go to work, so whatever, just drive. Yeah. And the person on the passenger seat came over to the back. He climbed like the center of the car, and then he came over to the back and
he went through my wallet. I had 2,275 naira in my wallet. I had my office pass. And he took the money in it, took my ATM, asked me if there was money, and I told him yes, they had just paid my salary. And so he asked me to close my eyes. They both did, but I kept my eyes open because I wanted to see where we were going. I wanted to know what was happening. And, this really made him upset because he slapped me around in the car, gave me knocks, gave me blows. He basically beat me up in the back of the car. And so we stopped by somewhere. My eyes were closed. He had asked me to give him a blowjob. And I honestly readily did it because I felt this was the worst that would happen. And so at this time, they had stopped by, I gave my ATM to somebody else. I gave them the PIN, told them everything. And I thought that was the end. The elderly man was afraid because my eyes were open, and he kept saying that they should kill me because I had seen their faces, and I would tell people about them. And so eventually the big guy raped me at the back of the car. He told me to take off my clothes. I was wearing a jumpsuit. A jumpsuit is just one piece of clothing. Once you take it off, you're bare. I took it off, took off my underwear, and then he raped me at the back of the car. I remember when everything happened, I shut down, I blanked out, and I just stared out the window. And I remember realizing that we were along Bar Beach Road, and we were stopped at a traffic light. There were cars around us, and I kept thinking life was just moving on like normal. And people getting down and on a bus at the side of the road.
He slapped me, he collected my phone, collected my work laptop, collected my jewelry, they collected everything from me. And they insisted that I bent my head down, which I did, and they just kept on driving for a while. The guy would slap me at intervals, but, they just kept on driving. And I just kept on begging. Then eventually the car stopped. The car stopped and the guy that was at the back was telling me to take off my clothes. I tried to beg, tried to say whatever I could, but he obviously didn't care. When I was begging and I wasn't taking off my clothes as he asked, he slapped me. The doors were locked, child lock. So he slapped me, he kept slapping me. And then he just started taking off my clothes himself. And long story short, he raped me. He stepped out of the car. The other guy, like the guy driving, also came to the back and he also raped me. And they just continued. They got back into the car. They continued driving.
So I dressed up. I'm sitting in this car and they're contemplating on how they would kill me, where they would drop my body once they were done. They contemplated if they should throw my body into the Bar Beach water or leave it by the shore, just by the side of the road. But by some stroke of a blessing, they turned into a street in VI. I recognized it because my aunt used to work there. And they parked. Big guy came out. He had made his way back to the front, opened the door from outside, told me to get down, gave me back my wallet with 275 naira, my office pass, and asked me to go. And they drove off. Life went downhill from there. Of course, I made my way somehow back to my siblings at the restaurant. There was a yellow cab somewhere at the road, and there was another baba inside. The man had probably shut down for the night. I begged him, gave him all the money I had to take me to my office. And I got there, a colleague was there, asked him to take me to where my siblings were at the restaurant. Everyone had been searching for me. And I remember that it was like a nightmare. Everyone began to find out one by one what had happened.
They eventually got to one place and the guy was telling me that he would drop the office laptop. He would drop the office laptop and some money for me to get to work at one place, and then they'll stop me so that I could go and pick it up and just like make my way to work, make my way back to where human beings were, because I didn't know where I was. Eventually they stopped and they pushed me out of the car. Obviously they didn't drop anything. So I just sat down by the bus stop. A school bus was passing and the women that are usually in the school buses stopped. She came down and she asked me what was happening. And I couldn't say anything. I just sat down there and I was crying. So she just told me to get into the bus, that they would drop me at the closest bus stop to the bus stop that they were stopping at. So they dropped me there. And then I saw another woman. I begged her for some money to at least just get back home. She insisted on paying the bus driver because, she insisted on paying the bus that I found. So she waited for me to get a bus that was going to my house. and she paid the driver. And then I walked from the bus stop to my house. I remember that walk feeling particularly shameful. And I kept trying to ask myself, Eunice, why are you feeling ashamed? This is your bus stop. This is the walk that you take home every day. Why are you feeling ashamed? You didn't do anything wrong. They did something to you.
I remember we went to about 7 different hospitals that night, but no one wanted to treat a rape victim. None of them would take me in. None of them, would treat me. They didn't even see me. I didn't even get down from the car. We finally got to a hospital that was like a clinic. And then they took me in, but grudgingly. The doctor just asked me a few questions and asked me to go into the bathroom to wash up. And I remember just sitting there. There was no lights in the bathroom. My siblings all came into the bathroom with me. We were just standing there and just trying to catch a moment. And then my brother just asked me to dress up so we could go home. And we were going home. My sister's friend, who was a doctor, again came and asked, what did the doctor say? What tests have you done? And I said, nothing. So she went back in, yelled at the doctor, and then they ran some tests. They ran a few tests, but they couldn't run an HIV test because they didn't have the facilities to. They flushed me, ran some tests, and then referred me to the military hospital at Oniko. And then we left. But before we left, we were waiting for the results. And I remember nurses pulling me to the side and saying, why are you crying? You shouldn't be crying. You're not the first this has happened to you. You won't be the last. I heard that statement over and over again, a number of times. I remember going to Oniko Hospital and the matron came and sat in front of me. And she looked at me and she said, so you were raped? What were you wearing? And she said, you won't be the last person this has happened to. And I remember just being quiet. I was quiet a lot because I just was carrying the weight of what had just happened. I remember thinking I could go back to work. This happened on a Saturday. And I thought, on Monday, I'm going back to work. I'm not going to let this change me. But I went to work and I couldn't even say hi to anyone. People would say hi to me and tears would just, start.
So I eventually got home in one piece. And then went to the hospital. They put me on HIV prevention medication, which felt like a lot of punishment because those drugs are terrible. They're very nauseating, and you had to take them at a particular time every day, the same time every day for a month. It felt like punishment. It was very evil. And that just happened. I just got back home after that, and I was supposed to go back to work the next day. I eventually went to the office. I asked for time off. They refused to give me time off. My boss knew the full context of what happened because obviously they took the office laptop, they took the office phone. So I had to do a police report. When I got to the police station, the police confirmed that other people had reported of similar cases, but they still hadn't found them because they were changing their cars. Yeah. When my boss didn't give me time off, I quit because I couldn't function at work. I just didn't get how my life had completely changed in the span of a couple of hours and everything was supposed to be normal. Everybody else was normal, so I was supposed to keep on acting like I didn't have questions that nobody could answer, and I just didn't know how to do it. I also didn't get the point of anything anymore because I was working so hard. I was trying to build a career, build a life for myself, and it just felt like there was no meaning to anything. There was no point to working. I felt working for so much money, and it just felt like I was alone because nobody could really ever understand, or you have to you have to feel it to you have to feel it to know it in truth. I don't think anybody except somebody that had experienced it could have spoken to me about it, and I would have believed them because it's a different thing entirely.
My boss eventually found out because I had to tell him what happened. And then he referred me to a rehab center. Rehab center had therapists on the ground, and I hated it there. I remember going there, there was no light. The lady's office was dark. The sun coming in from one window, just one window. She looked so bored, like she didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be there. And she asked me a few questions. I didn't respond because she didn't seem like she cared, and I just didn't feel like talking. And so she said I should go. She'd check up on me. She didn't, by the way. She checked up on me a year later. I was so upset when she did. Anyway, so I left her office, and my life just went downhill from there. I really wanted to get over the feeling of being raped. I was so determined that this wasn't going to change me or change my life. But then it did. You can't go through something like that and not be changed. And so I believed the lie in my head that if I had sex with somebody else, I would get over the feeling of being raped. And it was just one person after the other. It never helped. I always went back, always wanted more, not because I enjoyed it. At some point, I did deceive myself that I was enjoying it, but it was just because I really wanted help. I had the most supportive family. My siblings were everything. My parents were always there. But at some point, I began to lie to them, because no one would watch their loved one go downhill and not try to stop them, and I didn't want to be stopped.
It's a very lonely road. Again, I was going to work. I still remember what I was wearing. I was wearing a very big shirt and very loose jumpsuit set. I looked like a child. I packed my hair in 2 ponies. I looked like a child. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get what they were thinking. I still don't fully understand it from their perspective. Yes. I don't, at least not yet. But yes, that completely changed how I saw life. It changed how I saw men, how I saw women too, because Amy, my boss, she didn't think that I needed time to recover from such a situation. So that left me with a lot of questions.
Eventually, I had to get to the point where I realized that I was going to die. I really was going to die if I didn't stop. I didn't do drugs. That wasn't my vice. But I was on a spiral, out of control. And I remember being in a relationship with a married man and just hurting from everything. The affair with him, sleeping around with other men, going through the nightmare of having been kidnapped and raped. But it's so amazing that through all of this, God never left me. Never did, not for one day. I remember a specific time just coming back from some man's bed and just crying because I loved to worship. I really did. And God saying to me, no matter what happens, don't be absent from here. And I wailed. My mom ran into my room thinking that there was something wrong. And I got to the point where I realized that no one could help me. No one could help me, only God. And I became so desperate for God, so desperate for my healing. That really did change things. Eventually, I did get my healing. Over time, questions I had in my head, God began to answer. And then I began to share my story. I shared my story for the first time in 2017. I also met this amazing man who came into my life and was part of my healing, who is now, as they say, my husband. I began to share my story, and I realized that so many people had the same story in different versions. And that motivated me to become a therapist.
This was 2023, so this was 3 years ago. Thankfully, I had access to the art therapy recovery program. So I'm in a much better place. I won't say that I'm in the best space possible, no, but I'm much better. I'm outside of my head now. It doesn't feel like the world is pointless, thankfully.
And here I am, having gone through this ordeal, but saving one life after the other every day. So it's been the honor of my life to have this story and to tell it too.